finished in 1970 and stood there to a height of 417 meters, 110 stories. On top of that came a TV antenna about 100 meters. The South Tower was finished 3 years later, 1973, exactly the same height, 417 meters, 110 stories. Now, what was the weight of such a tower? This can be disputed, actually, surprisingly. The lowest estimate I've seen is about 250,000 tons. So if you add to this people, elevators, cables, computers, furniture, coffee machines, whatever goes in there, let's say 350,000 tons, roughly. This is not an important number. What is important is that roughly 90,000 of all these tons were steel, because the towers, like most other skyscrapers in the United States, were steel-framed high-rises, built around a column of 47, very sturdy columns, a core of 47 columns in the core, and the perimeter was made up of 236 perimeter columns. We'll return very much to this aspect of the design later on, but just to give the impression of the dimensions involved here, this is the so-called box column, this is building, worker, these are the perimeter columns which were gathered in modules of 3 by 3 and taken off. We'll return to this later. Now, the Twin Towers, they stood there, as we all know, until September 11th, when in the morning there was a French TV crew out in the streets of the small streets of southern Manhattan. They were following a rookie who was a young man aspiring to be a firefighter. And nothing really had happened in the preceding month, so maybe they were a little bored. We don't know. On this morning, to the fire station where he was located, came an alarm of smell of gas in one of the little streets. But there was nothing else to do, so what you see here is actually the fire chief getting out for this, to check this smell of gas, is the one with the cat.
It was 8:46 in the morning.
And then we heard a plane come over, and in Manhattan, you don't hear planes too often, especially loud ones.
The time was 14 minutes to 9, and this was the North Tower, which was hit by the airliner, the one with the TV antenna. 17 minutes later, this thing happened.
We've seen it from the front angle before, but not from this angle.
So the South Tower was the one which was hit the latest, and then 56 minutes passed by, and this thing happened.
This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We gotta get out of the way!
The South Tower stood standing for 56 minutes. I have the same event in another recording where you can see, if you're interested, that the top section actually starts tilting before going down.
Appearing to fall away from the rest of the building. Can we go to the tape now? Here we go, right here. This is, I mean, when you look at it, the building has collapsed. That tower just came down.
Let's go to Bob Bazell, who was at St. Vincent's Hospital. Bob.
Now, roughly half an hour later, well, you can all guess what you're going to see now. If you wish, you can see the antenna going down a little before the front line. Again, I have the same event in another recording, this time taken from New Jersey on a long distance so that we can see how enormous these structures were. Okay. Kick.
Coming from the city, some stepping out of the Vegas and so forth. Now people are gathering in large groups. In fact, in one corner I saw a group of people actually holding hands and praying as a therapy as an act to coordinate those pedestrian traffic.
But this is not what we are going to talk about, not for the first hour at least, because until about roughly 4 years ago, I thought the World Trade Center were the Twin Towers. And most people, at least in Europe, still think they were. It was. But World Trade Center was a center. There were 7 buildings in total. And the North Tower is called World Trade Center 1. The South Tower number 2. World Trade Center 3, the Marriott Hotel was lying here behind the 2 towers, a modest building of 22 stories. World Trade Center 4, 5, and 6 were all relatively small buildings, but World Trade Center 7 was quite a huge building, I would say, at least according to Danish standards. It was over here. This is World Trade Center 7. Here's a photograph of the same area, this time taken from the south. You have World Trade Center 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and World Trade Center 7 was lying on the other side of a little street called Vesey Street. World Trade Center was a relatively more newer and younger and modern building. It was finished in 1983, and it was still almost half the height of the 2 towers, 186 meters and 47 stories, was still making it the highest building, as I understand, in at least 30 of the American states. The distance from the North Tower was 110 meters, and the footprint was a little less than a soccer field. So this was a gigantic office building. And this picture is taken at a time between the impact of the two impacts of the airliners when the North Tower had been hit, and we are seeing the north side of Building 7 presenting itself as, I said, a modern office building in brown marble, and yeah, quite a building. Now, who were the tenants in Building 7? There were, of course, bankers and commercial companies, which are not really important in this connection. The only one worth mentioning is the Salomon Smith & Barney Company, which occupied the upper 20 stories of the building. So for this reason, the building is often called the Salomon Building, in particular in British and BBC productions. More interesting, in my opinion, are the governmental agencies. Department of Defense had offices in the building, so had the Internal Revenue Service. Central Intelligence Agency had its secret undercover New York headquarters in the building. This was not revealed before only a few days after 9/11 that CIA had huge offices in the building. Secret Service has the biggest office outside Washington, D.C. And you will all know probably much better than I do, the Secret Service is an important body